Expand your mind and enrich your world. It's time for another outstanding podcast from ICRT. This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Last week's Nanjing summit between Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Minister, Wang, and his Chinese counterpart, Zhang Zhijun, was short on substantive agreements, but carried with it a great deal of symbolic meaning, being the first time in 6 decades that officials from the two governments have met in their official capacities. To talk about some of what was discussed and the broader significance of the trip to Cross-strait relations, we're joined now by Professor Paul Chu with the Graduate Institute of Political Science at National Taiwan Normal University. He's also a former New Party legislator. Professor Chu, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Manconi.
So there weren't a lot of substantive agreements at the summit. What do you think was the significance of the talks that they held last week?
I think that this summit, the meaning of the service is more important than something substantial. I mean, this summit, it breaks the ice frozen between the past 60 years of the both sides. So that is the most important meaning for both sides. But if they want to talk about something real important for the Taiwanese people or the Chinese people, I think it's more likely they will depend on the situation in the next 1 or 2 years communication and their exchange. Some activities in the future.
So this was a trip that wouldn't have been possible 5 years ago, certainly. Mm-hmm. What do you think has changed in the relationship between China and Taiwan, or even in the local politics in Taiwan and China that made this trip possible?
Well, I think that mostly depend on the internal political situation of both sides. Ma's administration's popularity is not as high as...
It's down around 10%.
Yeah, it's down around 10%. So Ma's administration is very hope to get something progress to energize his popularity, right? But actually, the situation of Taiwan's economy is not very good. And so the Ma's administration, if they want to improve the situation of economy, their opportunity is not so good.
Very limited.
Yeah, very limited. So if he want to do something to his popularity.
Boost his popularity.
Yeah, his popularity. He must be doing something. If he wants to do something, I think the most possible is in the political side, especially two sides. One is to improve the relationship between the cross-strait. And the second one is to improve Taiwan's foreign relation. But Taiwan want to improve our foreign relation, we must have the endorsement or something, even the approval from Mainland China. We must have their goodwill, and they gave the chance to Taiwan. So Ma's administration must to improve the relationship with the Mainland China, not only in economy and socially. It have to do something in political field.
Let's go back to economics for 1 second, because this does have consequences for Taiwan's ability to trade with other nations, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that Taiwan wants to improve our economic situation. We must got something, get involved or take a part in the international trade. But actually, Taiwan didn't have much opportunity to get our part in the international organization. Even we want to sign the FTA with a lot of other countries, just like United States.
Free trade agreement.
Yeah, but if we don't have the improvement from Mainland China, actually a lot of countries they have a lot of situation they have to consider. That makes the difficulty for Taiwan. So if we can reach some agreement with Mainland China, and then we have the endorsement from China, then we can doing this with the other country to sign the FTA or to take our part in the TPP or the RCEP, if we can have the endorsement from Mainland China.
So what you're saying is Ma Ying-jeou is hoping that he'll have more freedom to make deals with other countries, both political and economic, and to do that, he needs to continue these political dialogue with China. China's not going to allow any progress on that front until there's more political dialogue, substantive political dialogue between Taiwan and China.
Yes, I think it is. From Mainland China's side, their strategy is carrot and stick. if Taiwan can do something they prefer, they can give something to Taiwan, especially in the economy in the past few years. Taiwan, where we had signed ECFA with China, that is they can give Taiwan. And from the political side, they can endorse Taiwan to take a part in the WHO, World Health Organization, to be an observer. And in another international organization, they can endorse Taiwan to be an honor guest or something like that. Okay, they can give if Taiwan's government can do something they prefer. But if Taiwan do something they doesn't like, especially from the direction to the independence way, they will push Taiwan and give some even punishment on Taiwan. Just like they can withdraw what they gave Taiwan in the international organization, they can withdraw that. And even to ask the other countries' government didn't give anything to Taiwan. I mean, the good policies toward Taiwan. They can ask the other countries not to do that. So they can have some policy alternatives to push Taiwan not to against China's will.
On China's end, they do want to see Taiwan enter into some political talks, more substantive political talks. And obviously, in the long run, what China wants is talks of moving towards reunification. And a majority of Taiwanese people don't support that. So in the short run, what are the kinds of political talks that could be held? What are some political talks or political improvements that would enjoy broad support from Taiwanese people?
I think the issue of reunification is a long-term political issue. I mean, most Taiwanese people, they think maybe we can talk about the issues of reunification a few decades later. But now, from Taiwan's side, we want to talk about, we hope the Mainland China can give Taiwan some opportunity to get our part in the international organization. Maybe they can approve Taiwan to take their part on this international organization in the sovereign state status. But to be an observer or something like that, maybe China can approve. I think most Taiwanese people, they want to get this. And in other ways, as we know, the Mainland China, they have more than 1,000 missiles pointed to Taiwan. So most Taiwanese people, they hope the Mainland government or their military to withdraw their missile pointed to Taiwan. Okay, at least that is the minimum behavior to show their goodwill.
So you just mentioned 2 points. So joining international organizations, at least in an observer status, perhaps the UN or an international trade organization, and also removing the missiles from the coastline. What do you think China would need to move in that direction of making those 2 agreements? Well,
from the mainland side, maybe they think if Taiwan's government and the people, they give up the alternatives to get the Taiwan independence, maybe they can give what the Taiwanese, they want. But if Taiwanese still got the alternatives to get the Taiwan independence, I think that is something that the mainland's people and the government, they can't stand it.
It seems to me that Taiwanese people are not interested in giving up the option of independence.
Yeah, sure.
Which I guess brings me to the next question that I wanted to ask. So it seems many international media organizations that have covered this event have covered it as a huge step forward in peace between China and Taiwan. But it seems like a lot of the fundamental disagreements haven't really changed very much. China is hoping for political talks that a lot of people in Taiwan just aren't interested in. So since both sides seem to really still disagree on really fundamental things, do you think that more talks like this help to stabilize the region? Do they really change anything? Or are we just ignoring those fundamental disagreements?
I think from the political side, the fundamental situation is not very good of the both sides. But if they can have the chance to negotiate, to talk, maybe they can change it gradually. So I think especially from Taiwan's side, we hope we can got the chance to improve the situation, the fundamental situation we have now. We can improve it gradually.
So, like you said, President Ma has a clear incentive to move forward with these political talks. He wants all of those things that you were just talking about a moment ago. But he also faces a lot of opposition domestically. Even in the trip just last week, the Legislative Yuan put big constraints on Minister Wang. He couldn't sign any agreements when he went over there. So do you think that with these domestic constraints, President Ma will be able to make substantive progress in political talks with China before the end of his term?
Yeah, I don't think he can get anything real substantive in political side when he hold his office. But if he can pave a good way for the both sides, I think he make his best, because the Legislative Yuan, because the opposition party, they didn't have and they don't have much intention to improve the situation with mainland China. They have a lot of hesitation to improve the relation with China. They feared to be occupied by the others. Be occupied by the mainland China. So just like this trip, they gave him a lot of limitations. And all those limitations, the DPP, they will not withdraw it during the next 2 years, I think. If there have anything change, maybe it comes from 2016, because the year of 2016, Taiwan has the presidential election. We don't know who will win the office.
Who's going to take that?
Yeah, nobody knows now. So, if DPP they take the office and they didn't change their policy to China now, the policy they have now. Well, maybe the relation with the two sides will withdraw. But if they change their policy, or the KMT still hold presidential office, and they going with the same policy of Ma Ying-jeou, and then maybe the situation between the relation between the two sides have the opportunity to improve.
We've been speaking to Professor Paul Chu with the Graduate Institute of Political Science at National Taiwan Normal University. Professor Chu, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Minkani.